My name is Mark Perna. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate all of those of you that have taken time out of your busy schedules to talk about the Education with Purpose call to action. This is really just a casual session of where I'm going to share some comments and then I'm going to open up for questions from those of you that would like to know more about the call to action or something that you might want to simply be able to interact with me. This is a live session that you're watching right now, and it's a prep session for the call to action that's going to be taking place on October 21st. Of this year between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Today what I want to cover is I just want to cover a couple of things. I'm going to cover the live stream experience. I'm then going to talk about how to leverage the experience that we're going to be doing, the briefings and the follow-up, as well as the impact kit that we've created for everyone here as to how to get the biggest impact out of the event itself and bringing stakeholders together. And then I'm going to take your questions. So my comments should take about 12 to 15 minutes tops, and I'm going to cover these areas and just kind of give you a general overview of what we're trying to accomplish at the Education with Purpose call to action on October 21st. And so first, what I'd like to cover is a little bit of the live stream experience. What is this going to be? So we're doing a multi-camera shoot. It's going to be a live stream experience that we've been planning for the past 5 months, and it's going to be telling a very powerful story. There's an incredible skills gap in America today, and part of that issue and challenge is that it's continuing to grow every day. And so with the skills gap prior to the pandemic was sitting around 6 million open jobs in America, where the people who were unemployed couldn't do the jobs that were open in these high demand, high wage industries. And so just about 45 days ago, it was at 9 million open jobs in America, and today it's at 10.1 million open jobs, and predicted, left unchecked by the year 2030, by Korn Ferry out of Los Angeles, they're saying it could be as high as 85 million by then if left unchecked. And so part of the roots of the skills gap is what I call the awareness gap, in which there is simply not an awareness of all the occupations and careers that are possible for young people today, and how we connect our education systems with our workforce development and our employers, and then also ultimately economic development. So the call to action on October 21st is all about connecting these dots and connecting the pipelines that are necessary in order to be able to move people forward. We're very excited about what's happening moving forward in the live stream experience, and so we'll be talking about all of these things, but also feeding each of the individuals on that particular day. So I look at this really as kind of two different ways people can leverage this event. The first is personally. And so the personal connection that people can make in leveraging this event is I'm going to be talking about the younger generation. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about Generation Z, but also millennials. Millennials are already predicted, they're going to be 75% of the workforce by the year 2025. Today, they're 35% of the workforce, but with the aging baby boomers who are kind of heading off into the sunset of retirement, that is leaving a huge hole for the millennials and Gen Z to fill moving forward in our workforce. And so to leverage this personally, I'm going to be talking about, what do young people today think? What makes them tick? Why do they make the decisions they make? And how are they in the workforce? And also, how are they in education? So for those educational organizations that will be joining us, each of those individuals will be able to kind of see, feel, smell, touch, if you will, the younger generation, so that they understand how they're making decisions and how we move them forward by unleashing their passion, purpose, and performance. So how do we connect, how do we engage, and how do we answer why for them to connect what I call to a light at the end of the tunnel. So we're going to talk about all of that and how that works in our educational system, and how do we create actually the education with purpose so that young people are willing to step toward whatever it is they want to see, and then expanding the kinds of options and opportunities that are available. Because it matters less today where you start after your high school career, but it matters where you end up. So whether you go off to a 4-year university, whether you go to a 2-year community or technical college, whether you get certifications, licensures, apprenticeships, the military, all of these are viable and celebrated opportunities for young people. And we'll be talking about those in great depth in order to be able to get stakeholders kind of standing on the same common ground. And that's pretty important as we continue to move forward and have these conversations at a local level. And so, if we wait for the federal government and state governments to do this, it may never happen, or it certainly is happening very slowly, but we can do it in a grassroots kind of community by community. So to leverage this as an organization, so organizations that are already registered and coming on board, They might be an educational organization trying to bring all of their stakeholders together, their mayor, their chamber of commerce, their community leadership, maybe parents groups, potentially their teachers, their principals, their counselors, whomever, kind of bringing them to bear on what's going to be happening, where the kind of the world has changed, and how the world has changed and how we have to pivot accordingly to it. And so for them to bring stakeholders, my job in those 2 hours is to get everybody standing on the same common ground so that we can actually now start very substantive conversations about where we go from here. How do we have the conversations about how we shift the paradigm? How do we get students and parents and communities to think differently about the power of education, robust academic knowledge, technical competencies, professional skills, all of those things that need to happen in our workforce systems and in our employment with business and industry across America, and then how do we connect young people to those extraordinary opportunities that are available? And so we'll be talking about that from an educator's perspective. From an employer's perspective, we're going to be talking about the things that they can do to attract and retain top talent. So also, what do the younger generations think? And then how can they best position themselves in what they do, from everything from vision to how they can actually recruit and bring in that top talent into their organization and keep them engaged without creating this, revolving door of people coming in and people going out. So we're going to talk about, what's going on there and how they can best position themselves, their companies, and the resources available to them in order to connect, engage, and answer why for young people as well. And then as a byproduct of all of this, we've got a lot of economic development people that will be joining us from around the country as well in order to, and they're kind of the great conveners, and how we connect those dots from education into employment and workforce development, and then ultimately how that creates an opportunity for our economic development regions across the country. And so all of the participants on that particular day of October 21st will be fed in a way that gives them kind of the personal way and professional way to connect to this information for all of those within their sphere of influence, but then also organizationally in bringing the key stakeholders together so that they can start and have this be the catalyst, a call to action, if you will, for them to be able to start a substantive series of conversations on how do we plan in our community to take a bigger step. So it's open to all of those, but that's how people can leverage this, bringing those key stakeholders. Some people ask me, well, who should we bring and who should we have as a part of this, particular event? And it really depends on the organization. It depends on who your key stakeholders are and who you would love to have at the table. Assuming, for those of you that have seen me, and a number of you have seen me, speak, I can be very dynamic. This is a little more casual today, so I'm kind of giving you this just kind of from my heart today. But that I'm very dynamic. I bring a great deal of information and fire to what I talk about in order to inspire those to take action. So who would you want on that particular call? All of those key stakeholders that allow you to move the ball forward in your community and in your organization should be there. So for a small business, it may be those people that they need in order to create the pipelines necessary. So for businesses, it might be some educational partners. For educators, it might be some business partners. And it might be key community leadership, legislators, et cetera. So it's whoever you think you need to have at the table in order to be able to take a substantive step forward in connecting the dots in your community and within your organization. So that's how leveraging the experience will happen. Briefings and follow-up, we're going to be doing a series of 5 briefings ahead of this for everyone who is registered. They're going to get a custom briefing. The custom briefing will just touch simple short snippets of information for participants who are signed up for this in order to kind of connect the dots and create some common ground even before we get there on October 21st. What is the skills gap, for example, and maybe some things that they can do with younger generations as well. So we're trying to connect those dots in short, simple briefings. We get to October 21st, and then we're going to be doing some follow-up afterwards. Every person who's registered is going to get a 72-hour cloud link to the 2-hour presentation that they, of course, can watch again or watch key points that they wanted to understand better. Everyone is also going to be getting a link to my PowerPoint that day and the slides and the information that was shared so that they can have those moving forward as well. And then there's also going to be several post drips including a special guide on what next steps each organization can take in order to reconvene the group of stakeholders that they brought to the event, and what some of those next steps are, so that they can start having this substantive conversation. So that briefings and follow-up, we're very excited about what that does to help, again, connect the dots for each organization to be able to move forward. We have an impact kit that's available on the website right now at ewpaction.com, and that's where a lot of you went to come here to set up for a prep session and just kind of have this casual conversation today. But at ewpaction.com, there's an impact kit with all of the materials that you can download directly to your laptop. It's everything from what kind of email templates there are. You can cut and paste out of this into your whatever email system you're using. You can change it, you can adapt it, however you need to use it. But there's some emails that are there. There's social media. There's links. There's pictures. There's video links. There's whatever you need in order to be able to tell a very powerful story to those who you would love to join you in this venture as to what's going on in this particular day. There also is a PDF invitation from me that you can attach to any email. It has information about the call to action, what is the goal, what's the vision, and what it is and how they can get great value out of this. And so I'm a firm believer that everyone who comes needs to be personally and professionally fed themselves as to, the younger generations, but then also impact their organization and their stakeholder group in order to have the kinds of conversations that are necessary to be able to move forward and be able to accomplish the kinds of things that you would like to accomplish. And what I like to say, and the way I like to say it to organizations and to people who are joining me on these prep calls, is that, look, I'm not asking you to support anything I'm doing. We're simply sharing out to everyone we can that we're doing something that helps support everything you're trying to accomplish. So leverage this, use the materials, use the 2 hours, on October 21st to accomplish the kinds of connections, common ground building, stakeholder building that's necessary for you to be able to take things to the next level. And that's what the call to action is meant to do, is to be that kind of that touchstone, if you will. Because what I've been hearing after 24 years of speaking and doing 85 keynote speeches, a year across North America and doing all the things that I do, is the number one thing I hear is, I wish more people would have been on this. I wish more people could have heard this. I wish more people, I wish we would have thought to bring, X, Y, and Z involved in different organizations. Well, this is that opportunity to be able to connect people up front, for me to tell a very powerful story, to put them on the same common ground with what you're trying to accomplish, and then how to move forward from here and take those necessary action steps. And so that's the Education with Purpose call to action. Those are some of the critical things that we're trying to accomplish. And what I want to do is open it up to any questions from any of you. And this is, I think, the third or fourth one of these we've done, and we've had some wonderful questions from folks, and even some nice comments. And so thank you all for your comments and questions. So please, I just want to open it up for a moment and to anyone who would like to, submit a question. And I'll go to my crack squad. Alyssa is working with me today as my co-host. And if there are any questions, and I'm kind of vamping a little bit while some of you type up a question and submit it, I'll be happy to answer those. And if I can't answer it, I certainly will tell you if it's not in my lane, but I will answer it with the best of my ability. So Alyssa, are there any questions being submitted by folks today?
Yes, we have a few really great questions. The first one we have here is, we all want to shift the paradigm, but what are the actions that we can start working on tomorrow to begin this transformation?
Okay, good question. And I think, I think the way I would answer that question is I would connect people to the call to action. So I would start, a conversation with people that the world has changed, and clearly a lot of the materials that are in that impact kit say that the world has changed, and here's where it's changed, and and now we must pivot accordingly in order to be able to connect these systems together. And so I think, as a first step, using the call to action to be able to tell a very powerful story and get people kind of hearing the same story, so that we can then, kind of build on that with the action steps necessary to be able to move people forward and be able to connect the dots, which will be different for every organization, the specifics of that, but being able to still go through some very similar steps in order to start again, bringing the right people to the table to start making substantive action.
Thank you. Another one sort of along the same vein that
Sure.
came in was, how can I convince my stakeholders, for example, administrators, school, government, parents, who strongly believe that college is the only route to go, that education with purpose can benefit our district and our students?
Yeah, no, actually a great question. And not too dissimilar than one I get, when I travel around the country. And so what I would say is this, you don't have to convince anybody of anything. Actually, I mean, I think that's my job on October 21st. And so I want to be very clear too, is that I'm a tremendous fan of a 4-year degree. If what you want to do in life requires one, I think you need to invest wisely, go with passion, go with purpose, but make sure you get it done. I think the challenge is, unfortunately, that's not what's happening to a large extent around the country. Because a lot of people are going off to a 4-year degree. They're doing career exploration at the most expensive time in their life. And what's happening is they're not getting out of that journey what they're putting into it, certainly financially, and even into some cases, from an energy perspective, the energy they're putting into it. So I think what we have to do is we have to tell a very powerful story that there are lots of ways to be successful in America. A 4-year degree and beyond is only one of those ways. 2 years associates, certifications, licensures, apprenticeships, military, I mentioned them all earlier. But I think what the story that has to be told, I think the people who are already like, they're all in on college, because I speak to a lot of audiences that are all in college. I've spoken to audiences where I've been told before I go out and speak to them, Mark, these 500 principals are not only believe that every kid should go to college, they believe every kid should go to Harvard. You got 90 minutes to change all that. Good luck to you. And I've had standing ovations from those audiences. So I think allowing someone to come and recognize that, yes, for a 4-year degree and beyond, for many students in this country, those are very viable and great options for them if they go with purpose, if they go with passion, if they invest wisely in that outcome. But they also need to understand all of the other options, and we need to celebrate them equally around the country. So I would say don't try to convince them up front of that. I would say allow me to talk about all of the different things that are open and just expand what they think, not necessarily change what they think, because what they think is accurate is that they are great pathways, but they're not the only pathways. We need to open and expand that, and let me tell that story.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question was, after the call to action, what are our next steps as an organization and community?
I think the next steps are reconvening with the group of stakeholders that you brought and having a conversation. It could be as simple as doing it on Zoom. It could be in person. It can be however you want. I've heard different organizations tell me different ideas and things they're going to do, because sometimes that's a personal or professional preference as to how you do it. We're going to lay out some action steps and things that you can do to consider, and things that next steps that you can take. But I think it's bringing people together and then having a very clear conversation about, how do we take this then and adjust where we are, whatever the organization is. So if it's an educational organization, it may be how we shift from making kids college and career ready to making them career ready, period. How do we do that? How do we get students and parents and community members to buy into that? For a business organization, a small business, medium or large size business, it might be, how do we pivot in the way we currently recruit, employees into our business? How do we, pivot or adapt our vision so that it matches the younger generations and how they're looking for a work-life blend versus a work-life balance? And what does that mean to us? And, do we, go after trying to connect the dots, with our future employees? Are we out there saying, here are the requirements of what we're looking for, or here are the responsibilities we're trying to match? And what are we doing? Are we requiring a 2-year degree? Do we need a 4-year degree, or do we not need either a 2-year or 4-year degree? And do we hire based on skills and responsibilities? So all of these things are necessary to have the conversations and how we pivot and adapt accordingly to be able to move forward. So those are the next steps, is then how do we have this conversation and build on what started on October 21st?
Great. And then one more question. So last call to send in questions. The last question is, can I contact your team if I need help customizing the impact kit invitations for my stakeholders?
Oh, yes, I think absolutely. If what you want to do, you need something that needs to be tweaked and adapted. I've got a fantastic team of people that support what I do all across North America. And so just reach out to us. You can reach out to us right via the website. And one of my team members will get back to you if you need us to adapt something or make something a little more personalized for your particular group. We're trying to do everything we can to shift the paradigm. We want to shift the way we're connecting all of these things together. And so if we can help support you in the ability to accomplish that at the local level, or even at a regional level, we're all in. So yes, absolutely. Please feel free to reach out to one of my team members, and based on what you ask us, we'll try to accommodate you to the best of our ability.
Great, thank you. Those are all of the questions that I have.
Okay, are there any other questions? Anyone with, if you would like to, I can vamp on for just another 60 seconds and see if another question comes in. Those were great questions. Thank you so much for submitting them. Thank you for taking time out of your day. We didn't want this to be a long, these long prep sessions. We wanted to do this in a way because we realized that we're doing something that's unique, something that's never been done before. No one's ever done a call to action like this, as far as I know, or we know as an organization. And so we wanted to do a prep session so that you could have live access to me and ask questions, and be able to connect the dots for you. So again, so that you can leverage what we're doing, to make a bigger connection in your community and with the stakeholders that you work with every day. So that's the goal. So if there are no more questions, Alyssa, then I think we'll bring it to a close. I want to thank you all very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of us. I certainly hope you join us on October 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'm very excited to have one of the executives from Lincoln Electric, who will be doing an introduction for me that day, and opening up with some general comments about where we're going and how we're getting there. And so I thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you out there. Please reach out if we can help and support your efforts. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.